Sitting at home here in my drawing studio on Sunday morning, I looked out the window where I was reading my book and I thought, I'm going to go for a walk. So I set off up the hill behind my house into the fog-filled field, which is at the top of the hill. There the fog somehow arrested all that you could see, but also all that you could hear. So it was as if nature was covered with this quiet blanket that enabled you to see a little bit closer to the things immediately next to you, but nothing in the far off distance. And as I walked on, I saw more details, cobwebs, spiders' webs covered in dew, barbed wire with tiny filaments of the spider's web flickering over it, and the steely grey reflections of the trees in the old black pond. The leaves crunched under me in the beech woods, and there was an amazing stillness about the whole morning's walk. And I thought to myself, why is it that we're so interested in walking? As a kid, I remember my heart used to sink when my mum and dad said, "Get your wellies, time to go for a Sunday walk." And all I wanted to do was sit at home and play with my Lego in front of the fire. Walking in the cold and the damp and the wet and the squidgy mud. Of course, we loved it when we were out there. And I thought about a series of artists who have tried to make work about being outside in nature or going for a walk. The first was a German painter called Caspar David Friedrich, and the painting is called A Wanderer in a Sea of Fog, painted in 1818. It's an extraordinary painting, divided into two sections. The bottom is all in dark, heavy, sombre tones, and the back of the painting is all in pale, cool blues. You can't see his face, the wanderer. He's dressed in a dark sort of overcoat, holding a stick in his hand, and he, in a way, has joined with the dark cragginess of the granite outcrop that he has just clambered on top of. His eye is engaged with looking out at this vast open landscape in front of him. On the left-hand side there's another craggy outcrop which protrudes out of the mist, and on the right-hand side a bit of a forest which is also on top of some rocks. And way off in the distance are further hills and further outcrops. Nothing is very clear, and as you can't see who he is, or even perhaps what he's thinking, the emotion on his face is clouded. He, in a way, is trying to be joined with the grandeur of the landscape. And as barren as it is, and as grand as it is, he is looking over it, down onto it. Not exactly as if he's conquered it, but as if he wants to place himself in a position of bemused, grand emotion. And as I walked on a little further, I thought again, perhaps after seeing the tenuous lines of the barbed wire, about a sculpture this time, not a painting, but a sculpture by the Swiss painter and sculptor who lived in Paris most of his life, called Alberto Giacometti, and a very famous piece he made, which is a theme he returned to over and over again, called The Walking Man. Now this sculpture is a sort of image of both energy and essence. You can recognise it's a person. It's a very emaciated, attenuated, thin, scrawny characterization of a person. But you can see by determination of the gesture of the walk, that this man, whoever he is on his way somewhere. He is not idling about, waiting for something to happen that might never happen in a sort of bored way. But he is not running, but determinedly facing the future with a sense of direction. The very thinness of the sculpture, in a way, is Giacometti's comment on the irreduction of the human spirit. That though it may be thin, though it may be scrawny, its energy nevertheless remains. Walking across the hills, through the cities, into the forests, the lone single person with a sense of direction. And as I walked on a little bit further, I thought of an artist who spent his entire career not trying to make images of walking, but making his work about walking. This artist is called Richard Long, and he sets off on extensive walks across the world and documents, not in a sort of tourist way, but documents the evidence of his walk. I was thinking particularly about a fantastic piece he made called Walking a Line in Peru from 1972, where he seeks out a sort of wilderness experience, a little bit like the first image that we saw of the Caspar David Friedrich. And when he's there, he then plots a line, a straight line from one part of a hill, set of hills to another, and walks up and down, all day long until he's made his own sort of path in the wilderness. Now, straight lines in nature are almost unheard of. So whenever you see a straight line, you know it's a sort of human intervention in nature. And he deliberately wants to show that he has been there and that his feet, his energy, his presence has made a mark on the landscape, and then he's left after he's photographed it. They're a bit like saying, I have enjoyed the wonder of this landscape. You're not going to see me, but you're going to see the traces I leave behind. And then that's the end of it. Some people think that this way of making art is slightly fraudulent. How can you make art just by walking up and down in a line? But artists all their lives have used line to describe ideas. Richard Long has only used his body to make a line in the landscape, to make an idea about what it feels like going for a walk. So next time, on a drizzly Sunday afternoon, when your mum and dad and your grandpa and your granny say, come on, let's go for a walk, you can tell them about the 3 different artists who have made work about walking. Caspar David Friedrich, the wanderer in the sea of fog, Alberto Giacometti and his anonymous, energetic, spindly walking man, and Richard Long, who just walks.